I'm very pleased that we're able to join Dr. Patricia Allerton, who is the Deputy Director and Chief Curator for the European and Scottish Art at the National Galleries of Scotland. And she also has another role at the moment. She's the co-director of the Scottish National Galleries Expansion Project. It's a capital project that's been underway for several years, and I hope during this initial talk with her, she's going to share some news of how that is coming along, as well as background into the wonderful National Galleries of Scotland. And so, Patricia, good morning.
Good morning. Delighted to be here. It's afternoon here in Edinburgh, but it's a sunny afternoon. It's beautiful.
Could we begin by speaking about the history to the National Galleries and how it has developed to this point? Because it's really been growing and growing tentacles over the last few years as more and more works have needed to be shown.
Yes, of course. Well, the gallery was opened in the mid-19th century. And at that time, it was very much, in a sense, a declaration of intent to create a wonderful building that would hold the National Collection of Scotland. So there was always an ambition to have a great collection of art that was at the time a mixture of both what they called ancient art or old master art and modern art, which was at that time mostly British art. So when we first opened the building, we actually didn't have a collection. We only had, I think, about 3 or 4 works that actually belonged to us. We were lent a lot, we borrowed a lot. And since then, really in the early 20th century, the history of the National Galleries of Scotland has been of developing its collections and strength and breadth and depth. By the early 20th century, it had grown so much that we didn't have room anymore in the building to share it with our colleagues at the Royal Scottish Academy. So they moved next door and we took over the whole building and remodeled it at that time so that it would, in a sense, work as one building. And really, since 1950, since after the Second World War, the story has always been of steady growth of a wonderful collection, occasionally quite large numbers of works coming in. And over time, how do we accommodate them? And really, I suppose the history since the Second World War was of a fantastically developing European collection. So post-impressionist, old master paintings. We were incredibly lucky to be lent one of the top private collections of art in the world, the Bridgewater collection, that came in right at the end of the Second World War. And over time, I think in a rather surprising way, the Scottish collection was increasingly moved around the building to accommodate these works by European artists over the ages. So where we are now, we're building a fabulous wing for our Scottish collection, and it will be an integral part of the building. It won't seem like you're going into a different part. It will be an integral part, but it will give us space finally to really accommodate this fabulous collection, which ultimately makes up about half of the National Galleries of Scotland's collection as a whole.
The gallery is so beautifully situated in the gardens and right in the middle and heart of Edinburgh for me. And the architecture of how you brought in a contemporary modern feel to the first stage of what's been happening is fabulous. So I believe you've got a film. Could we take a look at that at this point and see, and maybe as you go along, you could tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes, there was a fly-through that was made, and it was based on the architects' designs. We're working with Hoskins Architects in Glasgow, and also the exhibition designers. So the outside, it's all based on real plans of things that are happening. So it's sort of built on them. So it's very much a good reflection of what is coming. And every time we did some work outside the building to start with, and we opened that up. And it was really satisfying to see the movement from these visuals, which are all digital visuals, into a reality. It's each time we've been thrilled by the way the juxtaposition from unreal to real has happened. So we're very excited about that happening inside. So yes, the film, which was made in 2019, takes you into the building and takes you around.
Thank you. So let's take a look. what a great film. It's going to be a very exciting time in these next few weeks. Thank you, Patricia, for sharing that. But meantime, the galleries are busy. You have exhibits and various things coming up. And when we were talking earlier, you were mentioning how Henry Raeburn's, there is going to be a summer exhibit around him. And of course, we will have the International Festival, which you were one of the curating partners for. So could you speak a little bit to what's coming up in the following months around some of the exhibits?
Yes, I mean we're rehanging some of our international works at the gallery. That's going to always popular when they're put out. But in the summer we always have a major exhibition during the festival. It's a really great time for us to showcase Scottish artists, international artists. We usually have a big exhibition, and this year we've announced a major Grayson Perry retrospective. So I don't know if you're familiar with Grayson Perry. He's a British contemporary artist. He's massive, globally massive. He's just had a big exhibition in Oslo in the new wonderful new museum in Norway, in the capital city there. So he's British, and we're very lucky to be hosting and organizing his first retrospective in Britain, in his native country. So this is going to be a big thing in our biggest venue, the Royal Scottish Academy building, which is huge. It's beautiful. So that will be very different to the project I'm working on because it's contemporary, but it's interesting because Grayson Perry works in quite traditional art forms. He makes big pots. He does these very funny pots, tapestries. He works in a range of 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional ways, printmaking. So in some ways, his art talks to the older Scottish art and European art that we have at the National, but it takes it in a completely modern and contemporary direction. So that's a big show for us, and that opens just before the festival and goes on afterwards longer.
Great.
We're also looking forward at our Gallery Modern Art. We have an exhibition we're opening in April, but we're anticipating that the festival audiences will flock to see it as well, because a lot of people come just for the festival. That's an exhibition of a Barbadian Scottish artist called Alberta Whittle. And she, in a way like Grayson Perry, deals with important subjects and encourages you to think about them, but does it in a completely different way. And she is very interested in the tough subjects of colonialism, the brutality of the transatlantic system of enslavement, but encourages you to think and stop, and in a very compassionate and caring environment, think about these big issues. So that's at our Gallery Modern Art. So we have 2 contemporary shows of top British artists in a sense that we're showcasing during the International Festival.
Well, there's so much going to be going on in all the different aspects of the galleries that if we could revisit with you in June, July, ahead of the festival, that would be wonderful, because that will also help people as they plan their visit to Edinburgh to know that they need to spend a day with you. And it really is so much to see. It really, it's wonderful. So thank you for introducing us to the galleries, to all that's coming up. Can't wait to see the new extension and see behind the walls. But thank you for giving us a glimpse of what's happening. And for people who'd like to get involved, they can become a member of the American Patrons of the National Galleries and Libraries, and they can visit your website as well to learn more and to keep up to date. So we will share all of that with everybody and look forward to speaking with you soon.
Thanks very much. And on our website, for those of you who are familiar, if you are familiar with it, we've recently launched a new hub, which shows, it's in the project pages, the Scottish National Gallery project pages, but it gives an idea of many different aspects of activity, from conservation to learning and engagement. We've issued a whole load of new films focusing on different pictures in the collection, and those are really great fun. And then also some longer pieces of film that explore topics like the Celtic Revival, the Glasgow Boys, big and interesting topics in the history of Scottish art. So there's quite a lot to see, and it's now much easier to find through this new part of the website.
So thank you, Patricia, and looking forward to speaking again very soon.
That's super, great, lovely to meet you.
Thank you.